I wanted to take my grandchildren to the science museum like I did every month, but my daughter-in-law stopped me at the door with a tablet in her hand. You want time with Sophia and Oliver? The rate is $200 per visit, effective immediately. She showed me a spreadsheet with dates, times, and calculated fees. I smiled calmly and told her I'd need a day to think about it. The next morning, I handed her a manila envelope. She was expecting my payment agreement. What she found inside made her face drain of all color. She started screaming about lawsuits and lawyers. Funny thing was, she was a lawyer herself. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. I was in my garage organizing fishing gear when Michael pulled up in the driveway. My son had that look he always got when Jessica sent him to deal with something she didn't want to handle herself. The tight smile, the apologetic posture, the way he wouldn't quite meet my eyes. Dad, hey, you got a minute? I set down the tackle box I'd been sorting through. Always got time for you, Michael. He came into the garage but didn't sit on the workbench stool like he used to when he was younger. Just stood there, hands in his pockets, looking at my wall of organized tools. Jessica and I have been talking. About the kids. About boundaries and expectations. I waited. When Michael started a conversation like this, there was always a but coming. She thinks, we think, that maybe we need to formalize some things. You've been great with Sophia and Oliver. Amazing, really. But Jessica's been researching fair market value for childcare and enrichment activities, and she feels like maybe we haven't been, equitable about compensating people for their time. I kept my voice level. Compensating people? I'm not people, Michael. I'm their grandfather. He shifted his weight. I know, Dad. But Jessica's point is that your time has value. And if we're asking you to provide childcare services, transportation to activities, educational experiences, then there should be some kind of, acknowledgement of that value. I'd been a CPA for 37 years before I retired. I knew what he was trying to say, and I knew he didn't believe a word of it. What exactly is Jessica proposing? He pulled out his phone, and I could tell he was reading from something she'd written. Going forward, if you want scheduled time with the kids, the fee would be $200 per visit. That covers the opportunity cost of other childcare arrangements we could be making and compensates for the disruption to their routine. $200. I thought about the 8 years since Sophia was born, the weekly visits that became twice weekly, the museum trips, the fishing weekends, the summer day camps I'd paid for, the bedroom I'd converted into a space for them at my house, filled with books and toys and art supplies. And if I don't pay? Michael looked miserable. Then we'd need to limit visits to major holidays. Under supervision. Like I was some kind of threat. I see. Can you send me Jessica's proposal in writing? He looked relieved that I wasn't arguing. Sure, Dad. I'll have her email it. After he left, I went into my office and opened the file cabinet. I'd always been organized, kept receipts, documented expenses, maintained records. It was habit from my accounting days. I had a folder for Sophia and one for Oliver, started the week each of them was born. The spreadsheets I'd created were detailed. Every birthday gift, every Christmas present, every summer camp fee, every museum membership, every educational toy, every piece of sports equipment. I'd never planned to use them for anything. They were just my way of keeping track, making sure I was being fair to both kids, remembering what I'd already given them so I didn't duplicate. But now, looking at 8 years of data, I saw something else. I saw leverage. Jessica's email came that evening. Professional, formatted like a legal contract, with clauses about scheduling, payment terms, and cancellation policies. At the bottom was a payment schedule. $200 per visit, payable in advance, non-refundable. I spent the weekend in my office. I created my own spreadsheet, much more detailed than Jessica's simple fee schedule. I pulled receipts from my files, bank statements from my boxes of financial records, credit card bills from my organized archives. Everything documented, everything dated, everything categorized. The fishing boat I'd bought specifically because Michael mentioned wanting to take the kids fishing but couldn't afford a boat. $12,000. The annual passes to the Science Museum, the aquarium, the Children's Museum, The zoo, 8 years of passes, $4,200. The bedroom renovation, the bunk beds, the bookshelf, the art desk, the toy storage, $6,800. Summer camps, every year, 2 weeks each for both kids. I'd told Michael they were on scholarship, but I'd been paying full price, $32,000. Birthday parties, not just gifts, but the parties themselves. I'd hosted them at my house, hired entertainers, provided food for 20 kids each time, $11,400. School supplies, clothes when they grew out of things, shoes, winter coats, sports equipment, music lessons, tutoring when Oliver struggled with math, another $18,000 over the years. The college funds I'd set up, $500 a month for each child since they were born, $96,000, not counting interest. Medical expenses when Michael's insurance didn't cover everything. Dental work, glasses for Sophia, Oliver's broken arm, emergency room visits, $14,300. I added it all up 3 times to make sure. The total came to $247,900. And that didn't include the value of my time, the hours I'd spent babysitting, the weekends I'd dedicated to the kids, the evenings I'd helped with homework. I created an invoice, professional, detailed, formatted, exactly like the contracts I used to create for clients. I included payment terms, 30 days, full amount due, late fees applicable. Then I printed it, put it in a manila envelope, and sealed it. Monday morning, I drove to Michael and Jessica's house. Jessica answered the door in her business suit, briefcase in hand, clearly about to leave for work. "Robert, Michael said you wanted to discuss the arrangement." I handed her the envelope. "This is my response to your proposal." She opened it right there on the doorstep. I watched her face as she read the first page. The confidence faded. By the second page, her expression had gone cold. By the third page, listing every expense in categories with dates and amounts, her hand was shaking. "This is ridiculous. These were gifts. You can't retroactively bill for gifts." I kept my voice calm, the same tone I'd used with difficult clients for decades. "Actually, Jessica, I can. Just like you can't retroactively charge for access to grandchildren. The difference is, I have documentation for every single expense. Receipts, bank statements, credit card bills, contracts, everything. Can you show me documentation proving these were intended as gifts with no expectation of maintaining a relationship with my grandchildren?" She looked up from the invoice. "You're not serious about this." "I'm as serious as you are about your $200 fee. Here's my proposal. You withdraw your access fee. We maintain the existing arrangement where I see Sophia and Oliver regularly at no cost, and I'll consider these expenses what they were always intended to be, which is investments in my grandchildren's lives made out of love. Or you can proceed with your fee structure, and I'll proceed with debt collection." Her face went red. "This is extortion." "No, this is negotiation. You set the terms when you decided to put a price on my relationship with my grandchildren. I'm just playing by your rules." Michael appeared behind her. "Dad, what's going on?" Jessica thrust the invoice at him. "Your father is trying to bill us for $250,000. Michael read through it, and I could see him processing each line item. The fishing boat, the summer camps, the college funds. Things he'd never questioned, never asked about, just accepted as what grandparents do. His voice was quiet. "Dad, you paid for all of this?" "Every penny. Documented, dated, provable. I never mentioned it because family doesn't keep score. But apparently, we're keeping score now." Jessica grabbed the invoice back. "You'll never collect on this. Any judge would see these were voluntary gifts." "Maybe. But you're a lawyer, Jessica. You know how expensive legal battles get. You know how much time they take. You know that even if you win, the discovery process alone would be embarrassing. Every gift, every expense, every time you accepted my help while planning to charge me for access to my own grandchildren, all of it, public record." She slammed the door in my face. Through the window, I could hear her yelling at Michael. I drove home and made a phone call to Frank Martinez, a lawyer I'd known for 20 years. We'd worked together on estate planning for mutual clients. He'd retired from his big firm and now took select cases, mostly for friends. "Frank, I need advice about grandparents' rights in Colorado." He listened while I explained the situation. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. "Robert, I'm going to be straight with you. Grandparents' rights cases are tough. Colorado law favors parental authority. But there's something called the psychological parent doctrine. And with 8 years of regular, consistent involvement in these kids' lives, you might have a case, especially if cutting off access would harm them. What do I need to do? Document everything. I know you already have the financial records, but I need more. Photos with the kids, videos, letters, cards, any communication that shows the relationship. Testimony from witnesses who can speak to your involvement. School records if they've ever listed you as an emergency contact. Medical records if you've taken them to appointments. I have all of that." "Of course you do. Here's the thing, Robert. Your daughter-in-law is a lawyer. She'll know the law. But she's also emotionally involved, and that makes people make mistakes. If you want to fight this, really fight this, you need to be prepared for it to get ugly." I thought about Sophia showing me her science project on volcanoes. Her face lit up with excitement. Oliver teaching me the card game he'd learned at school. Patient when I forgot the rules. The way they ran to me when I picked them up. The trust in their eyes. I'm prepared. The next week, Jessica sent a formal letter. It was addressed to me, with copies to Michael's email and her law firm's letterhead. The letter stated that due to boundary violations and unwillingness to respect parental authority, my visitation with Sophia and Oliver would be limited to Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter, supervised by either Michael or Jessica, duration not to exceed 2 hours per visit. I forwarded it to Frank. His response was brief. "File the petition. I'll have it ready by tomorrow." The petition for grandparent visitation rights was filed on a Friday. By Monday, Jessica had responded with her own attorney, a partner at her firm who specialized in family law. The first hearing was procedural. The judge, a woman in her 50s, named Patricia Hendricks, reviewed the petitions and set a timeline for discovery and mediation. Jessica's attorney, a sharp-eyed man named Richard Paulson, was aggressive from the start. "Your Honor, this is a clear case of a grandparent overstepping boundaries and attempting to use legal action to force access to children against the wishes of their parents. Mr. Thompson's petition mentions an invoice he presented to my clients, which amounts to financial coercion." Frank stood. "Your Honor, Mr. Thompson's invoice was a direct response to an invoice presented to him by Mrs. Thompson, demanding payment for visitation. Our position is that Mr. Thompson has been an integral part of these children's lives since birth, providing not just emotional support but substantial financial support for their education, enrichment, and care. The sudden termination of this relationship, motivated by Mrs. Thompson's demand for payment, would cause significant psychological harm to the children." Judge Hendricks made notes. "We'll address the invoices and the financial aspects during discovery. For now, I'm ordering a child psychologist evaluation and setting mediation for 6 weeks from today. Until then, the existing visitation schedule remains in place." Jessica stood up. "Your Honor, we object to maintaining the current schedule." Noted and overruled. The children have an established relationship with their grandfather. Absent evidence of harm, which you haven't presented, that relationship continues pending resolution. The mediator was a retired family court judge named Samuel Cohen. He met with all of us in a conference room at the courthouse. "Let's start with what everyone wants. Mrs. Thompson?" Jessica had her lawyer face on. "We want Robert to respect our boundaries as parents. We appreciate his involvement in the past, but we need to establish appropriate limits going forward. And those limits include a $200 fee per visit." Jessica didn't flinch. "That was a proposal to establish the value of disruption to our family schedule and the opportunity cost of alternative arrangements. Mr. Thompson, I want to continue being part of my grandchildren's lives the way I have been for 8 years. I want to take them to museums, go fishing, help with homework, be their grandfather, I don't want it commodified with fees and contracts. Cohen looked at Michael. And you, Mr. Thompson? Michael looked exhausted. I want my kids to know their grandfather. I want my dad in their lives. But I also need to support my wife. Even when she's wrong? Jessica's head snapped toward me. I'm not wrong. You're trying to buy access to our children. I'm trying to maintain a relationship that you're destroying because you decided to assign it a dollar value. You're the one who made this about money, Jessica. Cohen held up his hand. Let's look at the facts. Mr. Thompson, you've been consistently involved in these children's lives for 8 years. You've provided financial support, time, and care. Mrs. Thompson, you decided to change the terms of that arrangement by requiring payment for access. Mr. Thompson responded with documentation of his own expenses. Does that summarize it? Both Jessica and I nodded. Here's my assessment. Mrs. Thompson, you're a lawyer. You know that grandparents' rights cases hinge on the best interests of the child and the existence of an established relationship. Your husband's father has clearly established that relationship. Your fee proposal, regardless of how you frame it, looks retaliatory and punitive. Mr. Thompson, your invoice, while I understand the motivation, also looks retaliatory. Neither of you is helping these children. He paused. Here's my recommendation. Mrs. Thompson, you withdraw the access fee. Mr. Thompson, you withdraw the invoice. Both of you acknowledge that the past 8 years of support and involvement were given and received in good faith as part of a family relationship. Moving forward, Mr. Thompson maintains regular visitation. Specifics to be determined, with no fees on either side. Jessica's attorney leaned over to whisper to her. She shook her head. We decline. We're willing to offer supervised visitation twice a month, 2 hours per visit. No fee required. Frank looked at me. I nodded. We decline. We're proceeding to trial for full visitation rights. Judge Hendricks set the trial for 8 weeks out. In the meantime, the child psychologist, Dr. Sarah Chen, conducted her evaluation. She spent time with Sophia and Oliver, interviewed me, interviewed Michael and Jessica, and reviewed all the documentation. Her report was filed 3 days before the trial. Frank sent me a copy. Dr. Chen's assessment was clear. Both children had a strong, healthy attachment to their grandfather. They spoke enthusiastically about time spent with him, referenced specific activities and memories, and showed no signs of distress or confusion about the relationship. In her professional opinion, terminating or severely limiting the relationship would cause psychological harm to both children. The report also noted that Sophia, the 8-year-old, had asked her mother why she couldn't see Grandpa as much anymore, and Jessica's response had been, because Grandpa doesn't want to follow our rules. Dr. Chen flagged this as concerning, noting that it falsely placed blame on the grandfather and could damage the child's trust. The trial was held on a Wednesday morning. The courtroom was small, wood-paneled, with fluorescent lights that gave everything a harsh clarity. Jessica's attorney called her as the first witness. She was polished, professional, completely composed. Mrs. Thompson, can you explain why you felt it necessary to limit Mr. Thompson's access to your children? Jessica looked directly at Judge Hendricks. Robert has been wonderful with Sophia and Oliver. We've never questioned his love for them or his commitment. But as they've gotten older, we've needed to establish more structure and boundaries. When I proposed a compensation arrangement for scheduled visits, Robert responded with what I can only describe as financial intimidation. You're referring to the invoice for $247,000? Yes. These were gifts, freely given over 8 years. To suddenly claim they were loans or expenses requiring repayment is not only legally questionable, it shows a transactional approach to family relationships that concerns me. Frank cross-examined her. Mrs. Thompson, before we discuss Mr. Thompson's invoice, let's discuss yours. You proposed a fee of $200 per visit. What was the basis for that amount? Market research on comparable childcare and enrichment services in the Denver area. So you assigned a market value to your children's time with their grandfather? She hesitated. I was establishing the value of our time and disruption to our schedule. Did you consult with your husband before presenting this proposal to Mr. Thompson? We discussed it. Did he agree with it? He understood my reasoning. That's not what I asked. Did he agree with charging his father $200 per visit to see his own grandchildren? Jessica's composure cracked slightly. We made the decision together. Frank pulled out a document. Your Honor, I'd like to submit a text message exchange between Michael Thompson and his father, dated 3 days after the fee proposal. In it, Michael apologizes to his father and says, quote, I tried to talk Jessica out of this, but she insists we need to establish boundaries. I don't know what to do. Judge Hendricks reviewed the message. Admitted, Frank continued, Mrs. Thompson, you're an attorney. You understand the concept of good faith in family relationships. Do you believe demanding payment for grandparent access demonstrates good faith? I was trying to establish appropriate boundaries. By commodifying a relationship, her attorney objected, but the point was made. I testified after lunch. Frank walked me through 8 years of involvement. The weekly visits, the summer camps, the college funds, the fishing trips, the homework help, the birthday parties. Mr. Thompson, why did you create an invoice in response to Mrs. Thompson's fee proposal? I wanted her to understand what she was doing. She was putting a price on something that should never have a price. I thought if she saw the actual dollar value of our relationship, if she saw that I could play the same game, she'd realize how wrong it was. Did you actually intend to collect the $247,000? No. I wanted to maintain a relationship with my grandchildren without paying a toll for access. The invoice was a mirror, showing her the absurdity of her position. Frank showed me a photo. Mr. Thompson, can you tell the court what this is? It's Oliver's 6th birthday party. We built a volcano in my backyard. He'd been studying volcanoes at school and was fascinated by them. Jessica had wanted to hire a party entertainer, but Oliver specifically asked if I could help him build a volcano. We spent 2 weeks preparing. 20 kids came to the party, and we set off the eruption. Oliver talked about it for months. And this one? That's Sophia at the Science Museum. She loves the planetarium. We have a monthly tradition. First Saturday of every month, we go to the museum. She plans which exhibits she wants to see. We pack lunches. We spend the whole day there. She's been going since she was 2 months old. Judge Hendricks asked to see the photos. She looked through them for a long moment. The hardest part was when Sophia and Oliver were called to testify. They didn't come into the courtroom. Dr. Chen interviewed them privately in chambers, and the judge reviewed the recordings. When the trial resumed, Judge Hendricks looked tired. I've reviewed all the testimony, all the evidence, Dr. Chen's evaluation, and the interviews with both children. This is one of the more unusual cases I've encountered, primarily because both sides have turned what should be a family relationship into a business transaction. She looked at Jessica. Mrs. Thompson, I understand you're trying to establish boundaries as a parent. That's your right and your responsibility. But your method of doing so by assigning a monetary value to your children's time with their grandfather was, frankly, inappropriate and harmful. Your children love their grandfather. They have a healthy, beneficial relationship with him. Your attempt to limit that relationship appears to be motivated more by conflict with your father-in-law than by any legitimate concern for your children's welfare. Then she looked at me. Mr. Thompson, I understand why you created that invoice. I also understand it was primarily a rhetorical point. But you're an adult, and you should have found a better way to handle this conflict than by mirroring behavior you found objectionable. She returned to her notes. That said, the evidence overwhelmingly supports that Mr. Thompson has been an integral part of these children's lives, and that terminating or severely limiting that relationship would harm them. Therefore, I'm granting Mr. Thompson's petition for visitation rights. Jessica sat up straighter. Specifically, Mr. Thompson will have visitation every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., 1 weeknight evening per week, to be mutually agreed upon, and 2 weeks during the summer. This is a legal order. Violation of this order will result in contempt charges. Additionally, both parties will attend 6 sessions of family mediation to address communication and boundary issues. She closed the file. I hope both of you understand that these children are the ones who've been hurt by this conflict. They love both of you. They should never have been put in a position of being used as leverage in adult disputes. Court dismissed. The first Saturday under the court order, I picked up Sophia and Oliver at 10 a.m. exactly. Michael answered the door. Jessica was nowhere to be seen. "Hey, Dad." "The kids have been ready since 9. Sophia and Oliver came running. "Grandpa, are we going fishing?" I knelt down to hug them. "We're going to the lake. I brought the tackle box." On the drive, Oliver was quiet. Then he said, "Grandpa, why couldn't we see you for a while?" I thought about Dr. Chen's report about Jessica, telling them it was my fault. Your mom and I had a disagreement about some grown-up things, but it's all worked out now, and I get to see you every week. That's what matters. Mom said you didn't want to follow the rules. Sophia elbowed him. That's not what Dad said. Dad said it was complicated. It was complicated, but it's not anymore. And hey, I've been practicing my volcano building. I thought maybe we could make an even bigger one for your birthday this year, Oliver. His face lit up. Really? Can we make it erupt with different colors? We can make it erupt with a rainbow if you want. At the lake, Sophia caught 3 bluegill. Oliver caught 2, and then got tangled in his line. While I was helping him untangle it, he looked up at me. "I missed you, Grandpa." "I missed you too, buddy. But I'm here now, every Saturday, every Wednesday evening, and 2 whole weeks this summer. Promise?" "Promise." The family mediation sessions were tense. Jessica barely spoke to me directly, addressing all her comments to the mediator. But slowly, over 6 weeks, the anger started to dissipate. She never apologized for the fee proposal, and I never apologized for the invoice. But we found a way to communicate about schedules, about the kids' activities, about logistics. Michael came to see me after the final mediation session. We sat in my living room, the same room where he'd grown up, where he'd done homework at the coffee table and watched TV on the couch. "Dad, I'm sorry. For all of it. For not standing up to Jessica sooner. For letting it get to court. You were in a tough position." He shook his head. "I was a coward. When she first proposed that fee, I should have shut it down immediately. But I've never been good at standing up to her, and I convinced myself she had a point about boundaries and structure." "Did she?" "Not the way she went about it. The thing is, seeing all that documentation, all those receipts and records of everything you'd done for us, for the kids, I knew you'd helped. I knew you were generous, but I didn't realize the extent of it. The fishing boat, Dad, you told me you got a deal on it. I did get a deal. That wasn't a lie. The summer camps, you said they were on scholarship. They were. The Robert Thompson Scholarship Fund." I smiled slightly. "Look, Michael, I didn't do any of it for recognition or payback. I did it because I love you, and I love those kids. The only reason I documented it was habit. I never thought I'd need to use it this way. Jessica feels terrible. She won't admit it, but I can tell. Her partners at the firm heard about the case. It's been humiliating for her. That wasn't my goal. I know, but there's been a consequence anyway. She's talking about leaving the firm, maybe doing contract work from home so she can spend more time with the kids. I think this whole thing made her realize some things about priorities. That would be good for everyone." He stood to leave, then turned back. "The college funds. You're still going to keep those going, right? Even after everything?" "Of course. Those are for Sophia and Oliver. They've got nothing to do with disputes between adults." After he left, I went into the converted bedroom, the space I'd created for my grandchildren. Bunk beds with space-themed bedding Oliver had picked out. Shelves of books arranged by reading level. Art supplies organized in labeled bins. A corkboard covered with drawings and photos, and ribbons from school events. This room had been my son's childhood bedroom. I'd repainted it, refurnished it, transformed it into a space for the next generation. Looking at it now, I realized it was never about the money I'd spent or the hours I'd invested. It was about this: creating a space where my grandchildren knew they belonged, where they were always welcome, where love wasn't conditional or transactional. That Saturday, Sophia brought her science project to show me. A model of the solar system, with hand-painted planets hanging from wire. I got an A, Grandpa. and Mrs. Patterson said I explained it better than anyone in the class. I'm proud of you, honey. You worked hard on that. Mom helped with some of the painting, but I did all the research myself. Did you know that Saturn's rings are made of ice and rock? I did not know that. Tell me more. She launched into an enthusiastic explanation, and Oliver came over to add his own facts about space. I listened, asked questions, and marveled at how much they knew, how curious they were, how eager to share with me. This, right here, this was what I'd fought for. Not the principle of the thing, not winning the legal battle, not proving a point, just this. Two kids who ran to me with their accomplishments, who trusted me with their ideas, who knew their grandfather would always be there to listen. Justice, real justice, wasn't about courtrooms or judges or legal orders. It was about this. Sophia explaining planetary orbits with her hands. Oliver asking if we could build a model rocket for his next project. Both of them assuming I'd say yes, because I always did. The envelope I'd given Jessica that morning, months ago. The invoice for $247,000. It was never about the money. It was about showing her what she was destroying when she tried to put a price on love. She'd learned that lesson the hard way, through legal battles and court orders and humiliation at her law firm. But the kids never had to learn it. For them, Grandpa was still just Grandpa, the man who took them fishing and built volcanoes and explained math homework and promised 2 weeks every summer and kept every single promise. That was worth every penny I'd ever spent, every hour I'd invested, every difficult conversation, and every moment of conflict. Some things can't be measured in dollars. Some relationships can't be reduced to invoices and fee schedules. And some bonds, once established, can survive even the most foolish attempts to commodify them. If you like this story, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel and share your impressions in the comments. Thank you for watching.